Hello everybody, this is me again, and we're in our 6th turn of Bios Megafauna 2. Since the last game some things happened. I got the zoom level set a bit better, so the annoying white bar at the bottom of the screen is gone. I'm sorry about that, I just figured out how to do that. And what else? I forgot to take away the latitude dice for this Kraton here. What it basically means is if the Baltica Kraton is supposed to move, it does not. It only happens if Gondwana itself moves. So these are more set in place at this point. Otherwise, let's have a quick look at what things look like. We've got 4 cards in this deck. These have just been drawn. There are mutations where they should be. We've got white, orange, not black, and green, with varying levels of development. And we've got a great Solar Flare 4-bush. This is our event for this turn. I'm gonna read it as always. If the Earth is struck by a massive coronal mass injection, the magnetic field of the plasma solar wind deflects most of the galactic cosmic rays away from the Earth. This decrease, called a 4-bush decrease, causes low clouds to contain less liquid water and the atmosphere to have less water vapor. So we've got less water in the atmosphere. That sounds like a good thing, because right now it's way too hot. Wait, less water. Low clouds to contain less liquid water. We'll see what it does. We'll see what it does, and then we'll comment on whether it's good or not. And here we have. This is difficult to read. It's written very close together. I'll try. Linin crisis. The evolution of linin, a complex chemical found in wood, allowed weeds to become trees. By 370 million years ago, Archaeopteryx forests, as well as log piles of carbon, covered the Earth. The planet suffered CO2 deserts. I cannot decipher this, I'm sorry. It's just that the words are written so close together and the letters are in cursive, in italics. Let's say it'll be easier once it's on an actual card instead of on a Vassal module. So let's see what happens here. So we've got Siberia moving upwards by 1. So we're moving north towards the North Pole, and we change this number to a number 4 again. And we've got something happening on latitudes 1 and 6, where there is nothing, so we do not have any further plant growth, which I'm sure the animals are sad about, but it's fine, they've got death reactions. So we've got something actually moving from the clouds to the atmosphere. Well, that's not what they expected from the description, so we are not at hothouse, we are not at runaway greenhouse levels yet, I would say. But let us see. So here we go with the Linin crisis. We actually have a black disk moving to one of the ocean shelves. We're going to go here. I guess where do we want it? This one's a tiny bit closer to one of the green. No, this one's closer to green because green can move a lot. So green would like it here. And we've got we've got actual plants moving into the ocean shelves. Where do we want this? And green wants it as far away from the fish as possible because it doesn't want to give them more habitats, because there are no green fish. So we're gonna put it here. Then we've got an oxygen disk coming from the atmosphere, a water disk coming from the atmosphere. These are only allowed to be placed in the shadow, wind shadow of a mountain, so a wind direction of a mountain, so either here or alternatively in the middle of a craton. So since we still have this up there, since we know that white has been doing the best, we're trying to mess with white, and we're putting an ice disk on here, endangering this termite thing. So we're endangering it. And we're back to just hot house levels, so not everybody's going to die. That's nice. So then we have a mutation problem. I don't remember what these were called. Let me look it up. We've got mutagen event. All right. This means we actually have to check whether people have too many organs, and they might just die out if they do. The animals are allowed 6 organs. The plants are also allowed 6 organs because we've taken some disc from here. So the plants are actually going to want to, oh, I forgot to move these down, want to move some white discs back on here, at least one of them, to make sure that the organ limit goes back up. We should have this at 50% soon. No, 45 I think. Was it? Yeah. Alright. And we're going to check this species has 1, 2, 3, 4 organs, and this one has 1, 2, 3, 4 organs. So orange is in the clear. Orange species are fine. Then we've got white. White's got a lot more. White's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 plus the monster 8. Does orange have a monster I didn't see? No. So we've got 8. So 2 of these mutations actually have to be discarded. Now, what do the white ones need? They don't really need to move anymore because they are everywhere at this point. So it's okay to be getting rid of blue mutations. So I think we're going to keep this because 1, it allows us to get more blue mutations just by changing our size, and 2, it took 2 cards to promote this, and we got this emoticon out of it, so we want to keep it. But what we can get rid of would be this thing. So we're discarding the cube, and we're putting this card on the discard pile. Also, we kind of want to keep this because it allows us to speciate into flying creatures of size 3, which is quite nice. And flying creatures are often only able to go to size 1, so this would be quite an upside. We do, however, want to remain competitive herbivores, and right now we are herbivores. But if somebody comes in to compete, there are predators on here. It's kind of difficult. Let's see what the others are like. Let's see what green's like. Greens become this master herbivore on, or they are gonna become this master. No, they are. They've got the thing up here, so they actually have 7 green cubes. Doesn't look like it, but this monster mutation counter counts for a lot. And we've got orange, whose sea creatures are adapted to green, but the land creatures aren't. And they've got 3 land creatures left, so it's probably still better to get rid of this. Yeah. So we're going to get rid of this mutation here. Put it over here, and we're getting rid of this cube. So now we are left with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Did I just do something unnecessary again? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. No, we are left with 6 mutations. Great. So the species survives because it had actual mutation cubes to discard from mutations. And if they had to discard one of these things, one of these organs, then that would mean the species goes extinct immediately, which is catastrophic. So we sort of scraped by there. But you can already see green's in a bit of a pickle. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Plus 6, 24. We've got 24 mutation cubes. So what does that mean? First, we've got a mutation limit of 6. But because we have this monster mutation, this white one, it means we actually get an additional 12 slots. Because we are size 6, we have 6 of these cubes. So that means every cube gives us 2 extra mutations. So on here we've got 6 plus 12 is 18. So we actually only have to get rid of 6 cubes, which is still a lot. You see it would be 6 mutations. So what we are actually going to do is we are going to reduce our size by 2. Actually, if we reduce our size, that doesn't work. Now we are in a bit of a pickle, because if we reduce our size, we also reduce our mutation allowance, because we are reducing our white cubes. So actually it doesn't make sense. But we would be allowed to reduce our size to reduce the amount of monster tokens, the amount the monster token is worth. So in general, if you only have one monster token, that usually makes sense unless it's a white one. And here it does not make sense. So what we are actually going to do is we are going to discard a lot of mutations. We're going to discard this cube and this cube. Now, as you can see, I haven't discarded these cards because I'm actually allowed to have them. Because they have an emotion associated with them, and this is my creature's personality. It's sexually competitive, it's jealous, and it's allowed to keep this symbol, so we are allowed to keep the cards. We still need, however, to get rid of 4 more cubes, and here we are not getting around the discarding part. We actually have 3 blue cubes on here, so we don't mind getting rid of some of them. We already used pretty much most of the benefit we are going to get of these. We are spread out everywhere on the planet, so we don't need this. There's still 2 cubes left we have to get rid of, because we have got this super amazing monster mutation with 6 cubes. We can easily... I see a problem. I would not have been allowed to be size 6 at all, because this has a size allowance of 5. So I'm just going to see it as enough of a penalty if I just reduce my size right here. It shouldn't change anything. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 plus 10, 17 cubes, and we are allowed 6 plus 10, 15. So we do have to get rid of another cube. We're getting rid of this one. So I'm realizing we actually scraped by extinction very closely, because we've got 6 basal organ cubes, and we've got, well, an allowance of 6 organs. So that was actually closer than I expected it to be. I did not predict that we were gonna lose one of these discs. So yeah, we pretty much got lucky. We have to discard a lot of things. These 2 stay. But all in all, we got by pretty much as well as we could have. So we are size 5. I hope this doesn't change too much. I don't think it does. Sorry for making these mistakes. It's a complex game. I'm in charge of 3 different players. I hope you can forgive me for messing up here. It should not be a big deal, because usually well, I could move so many spaces over the whole board that it didn't really matter what size I was, and I didn't win any competitions because nobody else is even close to as big as these plants are. You just have to make sure to keep the size limits in my mind. Everything else has a size limit of 6, so that's fine. Okay, so that's it for green. Green lost a lot in this round, but they did not lose it all. If they had one more base organ, they would have lost it all, they would have gone extinct, and they would have had to start again as one singular archetype without any mutations. That would have been bad. In any case, we are now moving on to the action phase, with orange going first. So we're bringing up the mutations again, and we are actually going to check what we can buy. So we've got 1 fish and 3 of these. So that's our allowance when it comes to buying things. We might actually want to get this thing. And that's 1 action out of our 3. And check if we can steal one of white's discs. No, we can't, because they don't have any left. Okay, and green doesn't have any either. I must have miscounted something. Oh no, green has one of the white discs. Alright, and I think up here in the count it should have actually been 13 for white. I think I missed one. That does not change anything. Right, so the problem about white is that white's got these worms, and they are well adapted to being green. So I might not actually want this. If I want to propagate my archetypes here at all, I will have to outcompete them as a plant eater, which right now is not happening. It would take 2 actions to even come close. 2 actions would be enough, but white still has a turn afterwards, so they won't only have to take 1 green card, or promote, or even promote. Yeah, they could just promote this thing to the monster token side. So it's not a feasible idea to take over these as plant eaters. What we would like to do though is really to develop tool usage, which sadly we cannot do either. It's a bit of a problem. Can we speciate in any meaningful sense? We could speciate into worm things ourselves, and then we would be allowed to eat these. And there is no competition right now in the burrow stage when it comes to being a carnivore. So since they are actually good herbivores over here, this might be a good idea, because they're not going to be outcompeted by green, because green is everywhere else. They don't have any tokens left. So we are going to do this. We are going to speciate. We're going to speciate into worm things. What exactly are we speciating into? We are speciating into a drill ovipositor. Okay, so these guys are small, because these have a maximum size of 1. Yes, this time I'm taking care of it, so I'm cloning this die here, putting it on here. Even though the mother is size 3, the daughter will be size 1. This is a bit of a problem, but in exchange we are getting some blue cubes that we inherit from the archetype creature, which are these. So that's one action. So we are actually getting this for some additional population and movement points, which we do need. Okay, so that's 2 actions. I actually need to speciate, so I'm gonna move this off here. We are going to speciate. What's this gonna look like? It's the wrong one. It's these guys. Okay, it's these guys. We're going to replace one of our guys on here. And we are going to populate with 4 blue cubes. We are actually very much able to do so. And we populate 4 creatures for 1 action. And we'll be making sure to actually take ownership of these places here. So what's next? Black is next. Black does not happen. White is next. And white is all out of creature tokens. We are endangered over here, so if possible we might want to get a white cube, which I do think we will do, because they also increase organ limits, as we have said. They give us some more base organs if you want to speciate, so that's a good idea. And we're getting a white cube. Change the orientation of this card. We are allowed the size limit. Okay, we are doing fine. Which creature do we want this on? We actually need it on this creature. Taking our victory points way out here. And good. So because this creature needs to survive, it needs the mutation. So that's 1 action. We do need to speciate at this point. And because we have just seen Orange's plan, we have seen them stock up on these guys. We know that they want to eat us. So instead of just letting them eat everything, we are going to speciate away from this. The problem is that we are not that competitive in the ocean. But that's not too much of a problem, because there's actually enough habitats left for being a water breathing creature, and there's also not that much competition, so we can just become carnivores in the worst case. So we are going to promote this over here. We are size 1 still. We might want to change that up at some point, but not right now. So white is also gaining a fish. We are replacing this termite, and they are becoming, what does it look like? The termites are developing, take the die away here, bookgill skimmerets. Bookgills paddle the water, both for respiration and for swimming. That's cool. Having a structure like leaves in a book. They are believed to have evolved into the book lungs of spiders and scorpions. So this is a bit of another way around. Our termites are evolving into these fish with these weird gills that propel them, which is kind of cool. So, by the way, you see these fossil icons. These mean these cards are actually worth a victory point at the end of the game. So for each species you have, that gives you an additional victory point. Even if they die out, they are in your fossil record, they still count towards your score. So there's always at least some benefit in speciating into different species. So that also gives an incentive for people to spread out more on the board if there wasn't enough already, and to fight each other, which is, as you already see, it's already happening. We are not even halfway through the game. We might be halfway through the game, but we're about halfway. And it's quite a tough fight. So we have done this, so we did this, we promoted this, so we have one speciation action left. We actually have to make sure to take our cubes. At one point we are going to run out of cubes, and at that point you are going to be allowed to steal other people's cubes, mutation cubes first, and then basal organs, just because there's no cubes left. It's a component limitation. It shows a sort of gene transfer happening, and there's gonna be a competition for that as well. Maybe not in the 3-player game. It happened in my 4-player game. In the 3-player game, you're probably not going to run out of cubes. So that means with one speciation action, we are actually going to get 4 fish. And that's it. Now the green player with 4 actions will desperately try to find something to speciate into. And is there anything? There indeed is. Finally, they got lucky enough. They are able to buy this card, put a yellow cube on it, promote it to this side. Now we have too many base organs, as you might have noticed, which is a problem, which is a big problem. But we have to do this. We need to catch up. We have to take the risk. And we're going here. So now we also have burrowers as green. And where do these want to be? Are we faster than white? We are. We have more yellow cubes. So we will actually do it here. We don't have more green cubes. Actually, what about these white guys? They have even more green cubes. So I can try and eat them, but I know there's going to be a lot of competition for the spots. So instead I'm going to try to sort of sequester myself here as far away from the orange worms as possible and hope it works out. So we're going to populate once. 1, 2, 3, 4. So we bought a card, promoted it to speciate, and we populated. We still have one more action left, and with this action we are going to make sure that our base organism, which is still our strongest organism by far, does not die out. And to do so, we take away one of their blue cubes. We don't need the blue cubes that much. And we also have speciated, so we're going to replace this with this. And we are ending our action phase. Now the orange player will be allowed to populate. And they're not even going to try to compete here, because they have no green cubes. There is no point. We are just going to become carnivores right away and hope that these things survive. Because if these die out during the round, our guys die as well. So it's a bit of a risky move. We definitely want to take the plant eater spot as long as it's still available. There's no competition. The fish of white are not going to populate this space, so that's fine. And we've got one more left. We've got movement of 6. We've got 3 from the size cube and 3 from the blue cubes. So we might actually want to spread out onto another continent, on the big one. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4. So we could actually eat our own archetype here. which is a possibility. And I think that's actually a good one. Because the only thing that's going to outcompete this archetype here would be another burrowing creature. Because there's, everybody has managed to speciate into burrowers, which I did not expect. So burrowers are now very common and they can be eaten. So it's not that dangerous to eat something else as a burrow, because it's just going to be replaced by other burrows. Of course, it might be outcompeted in this spot, in the carnivore spot, but usually it's safer to be in the herbivore spot, so these are more contentious. Might actually go over here. Do we have enough points? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah, we do. So our worms here are drill ovipositor possessing mollusks. They are now a bit more spread out. We don't have any new fish, we don't have any new archetype creatures. I think the orange archetype is set to die out at some point. We've got, they're not really populating anymore. There's not many habitats that they can live in. They are not very good at competing, they don't have too many cubes. Orange is probably going to try to just speciate them into something else before they die out. Because the archetype is not worth that much. There's not much reason for orange to keep the archetype alive. Now we have black's turn, which does not happen, and we have white. White has speciated into fish. So we have to disperse these fish. They have a movement allowance of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 for this organ. So where are they going to go? They are going to go 1, 2, 3 over here. Can they outcompete the orange fish? They can indeed, because they have 2. No, they actually only have 1 cube. So what we're going to check next. I'm already looking forward to the carnivore contest. So we'd have a herbivore contest. There's no carnivore on here. Then there's Roadrunner DNA, which on the sea over here is actually yellow. Only happens when there's a carnivore. So we have a herbivore contest. It's humid. It's a green latitude die over there. So green dice, green cubes matter. Those are the same for both of them. These are the 2 fish species. So next we check size. They are the same. And now we get to skeletal type. And for herbivores, the lowest wins. So these snails have a skeletal type of 2. And these lizards have a skeletal type of 4. So the snails would actually win the herbivore contest. So as white, we don't actually want to compete over here, because we do not like the idea of becoming carnivores. Instead we're going to go 1, 2, no, actually it's just 1 to raft as a marine animal. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4. Can we outcompete green here is the question. There is now a carnivore present in the herbivore contest. There is a fish who's already eating green's disc. So now the herbivore contest changes. Inedibility is checked first. So both are edible because both have the correct shape. Then we check Roadrunner DNA. And I don't think we've talked about this yet, or at least not enough. We are in a swamp, so the Roadrunner DNA responsible would be red. So whoever has more red cubes wins. And as we see here, white does not have any on their guy here. While green actually has 2 red base organ cubes. So green would win the herbivore contest. We do not want to compete with green whatsoever. Instead, we are going to go 1, 2, 3, 4. I guess we're going to step in here, and then we're going to populate from here. 1, 2. I think the mountain costs 2. The mountain costs 2. Yeah, 2 for the fish. So we're going to go over the mountain. 1, 2, 3 in here, and we're going to go 1, 2, 3 in here. Actually, we are now competing with ourselves, which does not make much sense, does it? We cannot raft over here, so we would have to go over land. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. We don't have 7 movement points. We only have 5. Where else could we go? We could eat this thing, which is an option. Again, no, orange would win because of skeletal type, that's what we said. We are actually going to take ownership of one of these shelf biomes. So one of these bloom spaces. And we'll just be hoping that it does not die out. I guess this one is safe. This one is pretty safe because these are not going to collide. The Medea supervillain might decide to take something away from there, but well, that's not really predictable at this point. So we've got green, and green is finally able to spread out. These burrowing plants are not herbivores, they are carnivores. So they are not going to win against white, whose burrowing creatures have 2 green cubes. So all they could do would be eating them. We also have to take the size die over here, and we are still size 5. We actually have a maximum size allowance of 6 on here, so these are pretty dangerous plants because they are big, they can move far, they can move 8 spaces. So we are going to do what we did with our archetype species and try to spread all over. So that's 1 movement point, 2, 3, 4, 5 movement points. And here we're going to eat white's guy. Possible. So we're going to take over these somewhat less contested spaces. We're also going to try to eat this archetype here because it's not that dangerous to be a carnivore over here. And we're going over here, eating our own archetype, just to make sure to be kind of a dick to white, who picked up the white cube and now would like to go to the safe locations, but there are not any, at least anywhere close by. So now we enter the contest phase, and we'll check if there are any contests. I don't think I went into any contests. I made sure that the carnivores already go to the correct spot. So now we have the die-off phase. It's not actually called that, it's called the burial and fossil awards. So first, endotherms that are endangered, that will be this one, are allowed if they have a white cube, which is over here. They have a white cube mutation. They are allowed to disperse, and they have a movement allowance of 1, 2, 3. So we could try to move away to a free spot. We are not allowed to compete at this point. It needs to be free. And we cannot get over here. It would be inedible anyhow, this thing. And we cannot get over here. It's way too far. So our poor species our poor population thing, our termite, it dies, gets discarded. It's not endangered on here anymore, it's dead. So this white cube was kind of a bust. It was not worth it. But I guess I was not smart enough to predict what was going to happen. There's quite a lot going on. At this point, you might notice that white cubes are not as advantageous anymore as they used to be, because there's no more free space on the board. It might still be useful for marine animals. There's quite some marine biomes that are not populated yet, but as for land animals, they're out of luck, pretty much. So the white cubes are only there for increasing maximum allowed basal organs, which might still come into play later in the game. You might have noticed that white cubes are pretty rare anyhow, so there's not going to be anyone who specializes in them, except I guess Green, who has produced this amazing monster with white monster cubes of gigantic size, just so they can compete in the herbivore contest. And the herbivore contests are going to become less important as well, because there's going to be more and more predators. There's still some possible herbivore contests happening here, but it's more and more it's becoming the age of carnivores. So that was it for turn 6. I'm going to draw the next ET card. It's still hot over everything. And Siberia is moving 2 spaces downwards. Right, let me just check the time. We're already 40 minutes in. So instead of continuing on for a second turn, I'm actually just going to stop here. Stop the video here, so it remains a watchable size. And we're going to continue with the turn number 7, I think it is, in the next video. I hope you join me for it. It's a lot of fun playing this game, even if it's alone against myself. And I hope you're enjoying watching me too. So that's it for me, and see you guys next time.